the question is why you need a next generation switch in the data center. And there are two reasons. One is a couple years ago, it was all about moving work to the cloud. That's modulated, and even now, 70% of workloads are still on-prem, and the workloads are growing. And those workloads have to integrate with the cloud in a hybrid cloud environment. The second reason is that data centers are disaggregating. And think of it perhaps as centers of data, where even a retail store could have a miniature version of a data center on location so that it can process data in real time for better customer experiences, inventory control, etc. So you have these two phenomena that are making the switch in the data center, the connectivity in the data center, very important in terms of the mission of making the data center an equal part of the rest of the computing infrastructure. So what do we mean by that? Today, a traditional switch in a data center actually relies a lot on the compute to do their job. And in fact, up to 20% of compute cycles in a data center are really used to do what a switch should do. And that's because traditional switches will deliver the connectivity for compute and storage, but they won't do firewalling, they won't do address translation, they won't do encryption. Telemetry is done outside of the switch. With the next generation switch, and we call it a smart switch, we use a DPU, which is very analogous to a GPU for AI computing. We use a DPU to accelerate firewalling, etc. And we can do it at wire speeds, and we can take that 20% and give it back to you from a compute perspective. Think about it. For every 5 cores that you deploy, it's like getting one free. So you have the switch now as a much better, much more efficient vehicle to execute this next generation data center mission. Very much different from the traditional switch. So let's now talk briefly about centers of data. You can do the same thing on a retail location or a clinic, but you don't need DPU type switches. A general purpose switch that's designed to produce things like firewalling and address translation will do just fine. And in fact, with the right servers and storage that we provide as HPE, you can do a data center for under $10,000 in each of these locations. So it's a very revolutionary concept in terms of what the role of the switch is in producing this distributed environment. And one last thing, these all have to be interconnected. And that means the data center network environment is not just the top of the rack switch, it's also SD-WAN. And with an efficient SD-WAN deployed in each of these locations, you not only have great switching on-premise, they all interconnect in a way that makes the environment very efficient. So that's why switching is leading the way in reinventing data centers.